Right, for tonight, I'm starting a new meditation book. I'm doing a shorter meditation book. It's only maybe 75, maybe, meditations in that one, Lamrim. And it's got Perfection of Wisdom meditations from the Heart of Wisdom book, the original Heart of Wisdom book. But at the beginning, start at the beginning, meditation on relying upon our spiritual guide. So there's 8 reasons, 8 benefits of relying upon a spiritual guide, and 8 disadvantages of failing to rely upon our spiritual guide. I won't read it all out, but you can read up on what I'm referring to in Joyful Path of Good Fortune on the chapter on relying upon a spiritual guide. So I'll just mention like quotes and this and that, and you can look it up in the book. Okay, little bits of it as well. I've written some bit of contemplation myself as well to kind of fill in gaps in the way that I've like put it all together, because it's not presented in the same way in Joyful Path of Good Fortune, the book. It's put together a little bit different for this meditation. Right, so first thing, having done your preparatory practices, I'm just in the middle of doing a meditation class actually on Heart Jewel, so streamed from Buddhaland Centre. Yeah, so this is the contemplation bit. 10 minutes is given us. Right, so we shall begin. 1. We progress towards enlightenment. If I rely upon my spiritual guide, he or she will reveal what I have to practice to attain full enlightenment. By putting his advice into practice and receiving the merit and inspiration that come from dedicating myself completely to my spiritual guide, I shall accomplish my goal swiftly in this very lifetime. If I were to limit my aspirations to an insignificant attainment, such as one fortunate rebirth, and continue to be binded to samsara with attachment, I shall be bound to countless rebirths in samsara. I shall have to experience birth, aging, sickness, and death over and over. My spiritual guide will feel it unbearable that I have failed to attain liberation from the boundless prison of samsara. Because our spiritual guide has such compassion for us. Since our spiritual guide is the synthesis of all the Buddhas, if we forsake or show contempt for him or her, this action will have the same effect as showing contempt for all the Buddhas. Therefore, I must rely upon my spiritual guide. So that's number 1, and number 1 for the advantages and disadvantages of failing to rely upon our spiritual guide. Number 2, and number 2. We delight all the Buddhas. In the scriptures received from the mouth of Manjushri, Vajradhara says, Every moment of anger that arises in our mind towards our spiritual guide destroys all the good karma that we can create in one eon and causes us to take rebirth in hell for one eon. 3. We are not harmed by demons and other influences. In Extensive Enjoyment Sutra, Buddha says, anyone who has merit and good fortune by relying upon their spiritual guide will accomplish their wishes. Chapter 6, 63 and 64. Ensnared by worldly concerns, with a small being attitude, I shall continue to be vulnerable to feeling harm, and my mind will be unstable. Even if someone were to insult or destroy the Dharma, the holy images, or the stupas, it would still not be appropriate. That's from the Zoom meeting, by the way. 3. Even though we may practice secret mantra for eons, if we forsake our spiritual guide, it will be impossible to gain realization. 4. We easily overcome our faults and delusions. If I rely upon my spiritual guide, through his kindness, he will show me how to abandon faults and delusions, so that I shall be able to avoid harmful actions and their results. We can remember the example of Milarepa, relying upon his spiritual guide, Marpa, abandoned all evil actions and attained full enlightenment very quickly, even though he had committed murder and many extremely destructive actions. We should not just use the Buddha Dharma to improve our enjoyment of life, for this would be a great waste and not an impressive achievement. Just same old samsara. Puffed up with pride, we may think we are special, but others will mark us to be a fool. That's from my own contemplation, my own experience. Chapter 260, verse 60 of Shantidev's prayer. What remains with me now from the pleasant experiences of my previous lives that have now ceased? From my previous lives that have now ceased. And yet, because of my strong attachment to worldly pleasures, I have gone against the advice of my spiritual guide. Number 4. With a critical or angry mind towards our spiritual guide, our practice of secret mantra will become a cause for rebirth in hell. Drogon Tsangpa Gyalpa said, "5. Our experiences and realizations of the spiritual grounds and paths will greatly increase. 6. We never lack spiritual friends in all our future lives. 7. We do not take rebirth in the lower realms. 8. All our wishes, temporary and ultimate, are easily fulfilled. The conclusion: we must rely upon our spiritual guide wholeheartedly. This is our determination. Contemplating the 8 advantages of relying upon our spiritual guide and the 8 disadvantages of failing to rely upon our spiritual guide. Come to a firm determination. I must rely upon my spiritual guide wholeheartedly.